It's been years in the making. I remember I was saying at one point, I was just like, I don't even want to hear no more about the fight until they in the ring or until the press conference, until I see a weigh-in. You know what I mean? Because we've been anticipating that fight for so long. But the fight happened, and let's get into it. One of the things I noticed uh, was when the fighters were, in their locker rooms, or you know how they come out to do the interviews, and what I mean, doing the prepping process and getting ready for the fight. And they interviewed Errol, a little while before he was to come out to fight Terrence, or to do their ring walks. And I noticed something with Errol. I remember telling my wife, like, something ain't right with Errol. Something not right. And I saw it in his eyes. We know that he's laid back, but I saw it in his eyes, that something wasn't right. I noticed in his speech something wasn't right. And I was like, man, it seemed like he lost too much weight. I was like, man, he real small. And, you know, uh, was he weight drained? Was it too much of a weight loss? Was he depleted? Was he dehydrated? So these are the things I noticed before the fight. And going into the fight, I see how that affected his performance. Now, does that take away from Terrence Crawford's performance? Because he put on uh, a heck of a performance. We all know that this was a history-making fight. This was a destiny-changing fight. This is the type of fight that cements your name in history. So we know the magnitude of this fight. Terrence Crawford fought a great, excellent fight. Now, because of Errol Spence's physical depletion or what have you, that wasn't Terrence Crawford's responsibility to make sure that he was on point, or whatever was going on with Errol Spence. That's not Terrence's job to monitor that and keep track of that. His job was to fight his fight and to execute his game plan. And so he put on a master class, if you will. Now, let me move to the press conference. It was some things that I want to highlight in the press conference where, and let me just set the backdrop for those who didn't see it. The atmosphere was electric. The crowd was electric. It was like a different type of energy. We all knew it was a mega fight, a super fight. And the crowd is into it. And so the press conference gets going, the introductions, all that, what have you. And there was a lot of talking in the crowd, but there was one particular person in the crowd that really was really verbal. And it caught the attention of the trainers, mainly Derek, which is Errol Spence's coach. Even got his attention. They going back and forth with folks in the crowd or what have you, assuming it was the same person, which that's what it looked like. But anyhow, a lot of crowd interaction. Things were going on to the point where, Terrence said, hey, you know what? Let's just have peace. Every time we get together, all we end up doing is start, things can get crazy real fast. And, next thing you know, we out here shooting, and all that. So let's just, your side, say what you got to say, your side. Let's just keep things peaceful. And then he went on to continue about what he wanted to say about the fight or the press conference or what have you. But this one particular person in the crowd started to turn it up, to the point where Terrence was like, forget it. And he went off. He went off on that one person that was in the crowd. Now, the press conference goes on. It concludes. Terrence Crawford, as soon as he hits the floor, there's reporters talking about, hey, what was that about with the they was inquiring about what happened with that whole fan situation and this and that. And even the person in the crowd was yelling to Terrence, man, you too emotional. You too emotional. And Terrence's response was, I tried the peaceful route and obviously it didn't work. So I had to meet force with force at that point. Now, I'm gonna be candid. I'm gonna be open, I'm gonna be real. I'm emotional too. I'm very passionate, very emotional. Passionate person, right? So when I saw that, I'm like, oh man, I can't even get mad. I can't even get mad at him. I was like, matter of fact, that probably would be my response. If you done tried the peaceful way and this and that, and they still going and taking it to the next level, okay, then let's do that then. You want to talk like that, then let me talk like that then. You come at me like that, I'm gonna come at you like that, right? So can you really blame Terrence Crawford, right? So now they go to Errol Spence and they ask him like, well, what do you think about Terrence Crawford's response? Is he too emotional? Was that emotional with him being too emotional? Will that affect the fight between you two? Those were, some of the questions that were asked, and Errol says, I don't know, but I do know that he was just like, for the most part, you can't be getting involved with people and the fans when we got our thing going on, we got our fight going on. He said he should have just kept going. He should have just kept it moving. It's basically what Errol was saying. So I was thinking about that moment, and I even applied it to myself. And I was like, what would I have done in that situation? And that's what I'm asking. What would you have done? What would I have done? And I already said, I probably would have responded the same way. Now, I don't curse, but I probably would have responded in my own way to that level in which he went at the fan, the person in the crowd, And so then it kind of came to me about, I was able to see something as I began to apply that in my own life, or to ask myself that question: how would I respond? Would that person affect my fight? With me being emotional, or me being passionate, if you will, would that affect my fight? Would that affect my moment of a lifetime? I told you this fight was legendary. It was a super fight and the world knew it. Would that throw me off my game plan? Would I have let that moment mess up the fight of my life? The fight I've been waiting for? Would I let my emotions mess that up? So then I said, well, how would I deal with that? And some answers came. And some answers came when I was reading that good book, the Bible. And in Deuteronomy, it talks about when you're in battle and you're getting ready to conquer territory, it says offer peace. First thing you do is offer peace. That's exactly what Terrence did. Now we know that doesn't mean just start killing folks when somebody rejects your peace. No, we're talking spiritually. It says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities, spiritual wickedness in high places. So when somebody rises up, or whatever spirit they operating under, whatever spirit that is provoking them or using them, to throw you off your fight of your life, your history making fight, your fight for your destiny and your purpose. When somebody heckles you down, will you be so emotional that they knock you right out? But that verse showed me something. We know that the sword is the word of God. So when you offer your peace, just like Terrence did, and it was rejected, they kept on going. What we got to do is recognize, okay, this is no longer that flesh, my flesh versus your flesh. That can go on all day. That back and forth, that can go on all day. Just like the coaches said, you know, when they got to arguing, he said, man, I can run my mouth. You can run your mouth. At the end of the day, these two fighters got to get in the ring. So why you talking to me for? And at the end of the day, we the ones that's got to fight our fight. Just like in boxing, it's only one person. It's only you and your opponent. That's it. You go to your corner, just give you advice and pat you up, but it's just you. That's what I love about boxing. It's just you. So are we going to let somebody knock us out the fight because of our emotions? So again, I piggyback on what the coach said. All that back and forth between somebody in the crowd and you, that can go on all night long. You got to recognize, okay, that's a spiritual influence that's trying to knock me out of my whole game plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now go and fight in the spirit, which is the word of God. I'm going to start falling back on scriptures like no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And keep it moving. Because your mission, your fight is too important to be bothered and worried about somebody that's trying to, for whatever their motives and reasons is, you know what I'm saying? We ain't got time for that. You ain't got time for that. All the things you went through in your life, you ain't about to give that up for somebody in the crowd. If your peace is rejected, go spiritual with the word of God. Be encouraged. This has been One-on-One with Coach Rich.